I go like into income, before I go, into their structure, into what are their programs and services, I want to know what their theory of change is. Like, why do they exist? Can they define the problem that they're trying to solve, right? Or they're trying to address, like the reason for your existence, right? Like maybe there has to be some section on their mission and vision. Like, why do you exist? Before you go into like who funds you, or what are your programs and services. I want to know, like, do you exist because you want to provide access to water? Do you exist because you're trying to fight for gender equality, or so something there needs to be that. And what is their theory of change,
Yeah.
right? So if you exist, are the services that you're providing supposed to address it structurally, or are you a temporary solution?
Mhm.
Or like I want them to identify what kind of enterprise are they. Are they a philanthropic, or are they just a charity? Because there are some NGOs that are just giving ayuda, right, or aid,
Yes.
or versus there are some NGOs that really look into doing structural issues.
Mhm.
And last, I would look into scale. All right, so you exist, what are your plans in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years?
Okay.
Because I want to see some sustainability, right? That's also important.
Yes.
What are your plans for scaling? Are you limited just in this geographic space? Do
Mhm.
you want to expand somewhere? It's important for me that organizations think of these things and showcase this, and that we include that in our diagnostics, because I think that will help. Because you can have the nicest, like structure, you can have really organized programs, but if you're not very clear on how you're going to scale, then what's the sustainability for long term?
Yeah.
So those are the three things that I want to look into.
That's a good perspective because you're now looking into you know uh, the positive side of the existence of an organization. So you don't only want to know what is, you want to know what is going to happen. What is the organization planning to go? Where is it going? You want to answer those questions. Right? So that's good, and hopefully, the kind of later on questionnaire that might evolve, from your inquiry, could also contribute. Yeah, because uh, you are looking into a different aspect, already looking forward, and maybe like Lou, you might want to include other criteria. Yeah, you were saying the scale, future plans, how to become sustainable. So these are good criteria that might be included. Good. Who else would like to comment? So in other words, we're open, to innovations in the questionnaire itself. It depends on how you are going to develop your case. Uh, but these innovations are quite important because we're looking at a tool. But of course, a tool has to have a purpose. So it depends on the researcher's point of view, what purpose they would like to use this instrument for. And if it can be demonstrated that the tool is really useful in achieving that objective, maganda yun, no? Maganda yun. Okay, anybody else?
Sir, JR here.
JR, yes.
Yeah, on number one, I think the question revolves around on how do we want to use the tool, no, discriminant or
Yes.
diagnostic. From the get-go, my stand is I would like to use it as a diagnostic um, tool of analysis. But one of the pitfalls that I found is that it's possible that we treat entities or quote unquote SSE entities as they are, as SSE organization, until we prove them not, right?
Yes.
So we deduct. So I wanted to argue for the discriminant analysis, and I like to emphasize that it's not necessarily black and white. For example, the organization is not SSE or the organization is an SSE, because for discriminant analysis, the dependent variable is categorized. So it shouldn't, hindi lang siya parang SSE or not SSE. It can be, for example, a scale. Lou has a better scale than what I did in my answer, but for example, it can be high likely to be an SSE, less likely, or can be a full SSE organization. But I think Lou earlier is a better scale for the categories of the SSEs, and our independent variable would be the SSE features.
Yes.
And the SSE features, if that's the case, if we can quantify this using statistical analysis, we can put scale and even interval. So for example, we can use rating, and we can also scale each of the features of the SSE and then put point system. And then from that, we will be identify if the organization can be, for example, is an SSE, high likely to be SSE, less likely to be SSE, and then find points for improvement if we really want to make the organization or advocate for the organization to be an SSE. So that's discriminant analysis. Ayoko lang sana kung sa diagnostic, maisip natin na okay, SSE to until we prove them not, and then we'll intervene.
Yeah.
So yun sana yung naiisip ko.
Yeah.
For the two.
Maganda yung perspective na yun, no? Kasi actually itong tool na ito, this self-assessment questionnaire, it has a very limited use talaga, no, for ILO. Kasi they want to mapping muna, no? And then from the mapping, they will now select which of these entities have features that closely approximate, no, yung SEC features, parang ganyan. Then they will select that for the case study, parang ganon yun, no? Kaya more in-depth, more in-depth itong analysis, inquiry into the case. But sa atin kasi ay dahil sa constraint natin, we're only requiring one SSE, no? Yan. But if, for example, the questionnaire can be improved in such a way that pwede mong magamit na talagang pwede mo i-classify, in a range, no? From maybe weakest to strongest, ganyan. Maganda yon, no? It will serve better, the mapping exercise. Now, whatever the results of this questionnaire, one of the potential users in the Philippines is the National Development Roadmap for Social Enterprise Development, no? Because they will be registering is. And one of the arguments for registering is anong criteria, no? Yung bang criteria lang is willingness to register? Ano bang criteria? What is the criteria for deciding social enterprise talaga sila is sila, no? So wala pang silang tool na ganyan, no? So there's still a lot of work to be done. But if, for example, this group can provide some materials that can be worked on, we can actually recommend, to the National Development Roadmap for Social Enterprise a tool that might be useful for evaluating yung mga social enterprises. Okay, so meron pa ba? Can we go on to the next question? Yung next question ay number 2. What are the normative features of solidarity organization enterprises such as cooperatives, associations, mutual societies, separate groups? Okay, ano niyo ba kung ano sabihin ng normative sa positive before we answer this question? Anyone who would like to comment on what is normative statement sa positive statement? Do you have anything in your desk, JR, on this?
I was not able to research on it, but just top of my head, positive statements based on facts, based on specific evidence, and normative is subjective.
Okay, good. basically yung normative are based on values and principles, ano? What ought to be, what we desire, parang gano'n, or desirable traits, you know. Tama si JR na yung positive, these are based on facts, you know. So itong ano, normative features ng SSE entities, we have gone through this, yung values and principles, they must be engaged in economic activities, no? Kumbaga, ganon yung ano niya, no? So, they're not really based on facts, no? Yung mga normative features. So what we're doing is, kapag ka nag-assess ng ano, we are taking these features, normative features, and then look at existing ano, itong entities, ano. Tinitingnan natin yung reality against the norms, ano. So ano ba talaga ang reality? Nagfi-fit ba ang norm, reality to the norm, and vice versa, no? Parang ganun, no? So yung mga normative features, for example, ng cooperative, all these organizations, there's one ano one basic normative feature, no? Cooperative, association, mutual societies, separate groups. Can you name some? Yung ano makikita mo parang norm yung norm nila, na masasabi mo a cooperative must be something like this, association is also must be like this, ganyan. What is a characteristic that is ano itong common to all? Si John, andyan na ba si John? Wala pa si John, ano? How about Carl? Ano ang common characteristic ng mga ito? Cooperative, association.
Magandang gabi po sa lahat. Yan. By the way, kanina i-add ko lang yung aking voice doon sa pag-agree kay Lou, ano, yung may scaling. At
Okay.
saka maganda yung discussion na pati yung mga scales, yung scaling o yung mga features ay pwede ring ma-improve pa at tanungin pa further, no. Sa akin ang common po, siguro looking at doon sa experience ko rin, yung common ay una, hindi siya patungkol lang talaga sa individual growth, individual profit. It's always with the people. So may people, growth for the people, may growth for the planet, yung ganung aspect. At mayroon talaga siyang aspeto na to address social ills. Sa akin, din sir, parang pagkaunawa dito sa ating mga discussions, may ganung aspect na yung yan, bahagi yan sa mga nakita kong commonalities aside doon sa mga na-discuss na nasa PowerPoint ninyo. Na may ano talaga siya, may aim siya to address yung the issue of yung lack of empowerment from the grassroots.
Okay. Good, no? Kasi yung objective nila ay yun nga, hindi for profit, ano, kundi para sa mga tao, parang ganun, no? Okay, that's good. What else? Ano yung other normative feature? Remember there are 7 core features, ano? Ano yung makikita niyo ng mga core features na iba pa sa cooperatives na ito? Of course, one of them is yung it is for people and planet rather than profit, no? So isang core feature yun ng itong SSE. Ano pa nakikita nyo out of the 7 core features?
Sir, pwede ba dun yung voluntary?
Yes, voluntary is also okay, no? Kasi hindi man sa pilitan yan, no? Tayo ka ng cooperative, sino lang yung may gusto, no? So voluntary is one. Ano pa?
Sir, siguro ang pinaka hindi contentious yung ano, since SSC entity sila, something to do with economics. So dapat engage sila in an economic activity. I think that's the most ano ba, not contentious, uncontentious feature.
Yeah.
Pero yung iba, for example, actually related siya sana sa tanong ko last meeting. For example, for democratic governance and participatory. For example, a people's organization in an MILF camp in Camp Pader, Maguindanao, for example.
Yeah.
They have voluntary membership, but the leadership are composed of, for example, former combatants, elderly, and they're not necessarily elected 1:1 by the members, one vote, one member, but
Yeah.
they are enthroned, quote unquote, into
Yes.
the position. But for them, it's participatory because that's their culture, for example. So does that make them undemocratic and not SSE in the case of that people's organization?
Good
So kaya
question.
connected din sa sinabi ko kaninang hindi black and white. And whose norm are we adhering to?
That's a good question, no? Now remember there are 7 core features, no? Pagdating sa participatory governance, medyo weak siya, di ba? But the others, meron siguro siyang itong contribution doon na malakas siya, no? So, pagka dinadiagnose lang natin, nakikita natin na itong organization na ito, meron siyang weakness in terms of participatory governance. But in other features, maybe, it's engaged in business, no? Yan. And then, it puts people on profit, planet over profit, kasi it serves the interest of the people, no? So, in other words, yung ating decision is not based on only one criteria or feature, Yan. Kaya maganda na hindi natin we sort of withhold our decision or final itong evaluation on just one criteria. Yan. So ngayon, from the point of view of development, if we really want to develop this organization to become an SSC entity, yung feature na yun na weak siya, which is participatory governance, maybe that's an area where we can focus yung intervention. How do we make that organization more democratic? You can introduce social dialogue, for example. Kasi pag may dialogue, means to say, the leadership, even if they're self-appointed, they can discuss yung mga issues pertinent to the management and direction of the organization. Mga issues can be discussed openly by the members. Yan. So, yun ang isang itong way of democratizing through social dialogue. Yan. Na pwedeng gamitin. And ito yung isang feature na for example in countries like Kyrgyzstan or Mongolia, kasi dating mga yan, mga Soviet itong satellites, so command economies. And then they are transforming. Pero the previous culture of top-down leadership, marami pa rin ganun. Marami pa rin ganun. So, self-appointed yung mga leaders, although cooperative sila, parang ganyan. So, the only transition, isa yun sa mga question ng mga researchers in these countries. Paano yan? Sabi nila, the transition is ongoing and yet there are vestiges of the old paradigm. Kasi yung command economy, ina-appoint yung leaders sa command economy. Kung party leader ka, yan, you are given itong leadership in an organization. Parang ganun. So, may mga question na ganun and then of course, ang sagot naman ng ILO dyan, that's why we have social dialogue as an instrument. Yan. So, yung social dialogue is going to be open through discussion ng resource ng case study, Yan. So pwedeng ganun ang mangyari diyan at uh, very challenging yung mga itong cases also in Vietnam, no? Kasi in Vietnam may mga NGOs pero government controlled yung mga NGOs, no? Yan. So these are the things that have been discussed at yung issue na binanggit mo JR, no, is quite relevant kasi even in so-called democratic countries, no, participatory governance is not really that much itong implemented. Yan. Even in the Philippines, maraming cooperative na patuloy na sa leadership yung mga ilang tao lang. I don't know how this is being handled by CDA kasi merong limitation ng CDA. But I know a number of cooperatives na rigodon lang sila doon, the same people in the board of directors, yung board of trustees. Yan. But they are the same people. No? They are the same people. Okay, so ano pa yung ibang features ng makikita niyo sa cooperatives, mutual societies that might be applicable? Yung na-mention mo, GR, yung membership, all of these organizations are membership-based. Compared to foundation, yung foundation can be organized by a few people, no? They do not recruit members. Yan. So, a foundation at saka yung shareholding companies also are not membership-based, no? Some social enterprises are shareholding companies. Wala silang members. The stakeholders are self-chosen, self-selected, self-determined through their capital equity capital contribution. Yan. So, kung wala kang capital, you cannot be part of the shareholders, no? Equity holders. Yeah. Doon naman sa foundation, normally, tinatayo ng ilang tao yan, no? And then, closed organization na siya. Kung sino yung mga founders, yun na rin yung doon, no? Until probably there is a change doon sa mga founders ng or the board of directors ng foundation. So marami mga NGO ganun sila. NGO din. Kung sino yung founder, hanggang sa buhay pa yung founder, siya pa rin yung nasa leadership position. Yan. So unlike membership-based, may election sila, no? Yun isang itong feature nila, no? So okay, let's go to number 3. What normative features of self-based organizations that are not present in foundations, shareholding, social enterprises, and NGOs? I have mentioned that already. Yan. And this is not membership-based. Yeah. So marami mga NGOs, they are engaged in developing community-based enterprises. No? Sometimes they themselves undertake development projects. Sila mismo ang nag-establish and then they manage it, no? Hire people to manage it. Another approach is they build yung capacity ng existing organizations. So marami silang mga itong approaches in community development. But all of these organizations are not membership-based. Sila yung self-selected, no? Self-selected. Like my organization, Asian Sudati Economic Council, this is not membership-based, no? Although yung mga organizations that affiliate with this council are voluntary. Yeah. But for example, the network of ASEC in Indonesia, ilan lang yan sila na nagpapatakbo, no? And then they organize, they invite and then attract organizations to be part of the network. Yan. So in a way, para siyang network or secretariat lang function niya, no? To facilitate the sharing of information among like-minded organizations. You know. Maraming itong NGO sa Pilipinas that are involved in development activities, community development. Yan. At ang isang reason why they are also included among SSEs ay although wala sa kanila yung yung feature na membership based, meron silang ibang features, they are engaged in economic activities, they put people on planet over profit, so kumbaga they are included by ILO kasi merong mga ibang criteria na or features ng SSE na present sa kanila. Okay? So hindi lang dahilan sa wala silang members, but because they have other features that are congruent with the features of SSE, kaya they were included among those identified as normative entities of SSE. Number 4, can an organization enterprise be an SSE entity if it does not use part, if not all of its surplus profits in supporting any social or environmental mission? Okay, medyo tricky question na ito, Kasi isang lang ito, isang criteria, na kailangan yung SSE entity must use part, if not all, of its surplus or profit to support its social or environmental mission. Kung hindi, nag-engage sa economic activities, and then membership-based siya, meron siyang participatory management, pero yung kanyang profit, it's not being used for supporting any social environmental mission. Would you consider that organization to be an SSE entity? Yan ang question. Palagay nyo?
Sir, if I may,
John.
sa tingin ko po, following yung yung brainstorming po natin nung nakaraang session, if we look at it in a progressive model, ibig sabihin growing pa lang sila, I think that could be considered. Although, sir, siguro po isingit ko lang, pinag-iisipan ko po kasi kanina yung question number 3, yung normative feature na pag-uusapan. Aside from the structure, I think one important characteristic na normally wala pa talaga, probably across the board, ay yung profit, yung pagkita ng pera, yung profit making ability, which leads to number 4. Kasi ang assumption ng number 4 is there is profit that is being made for distribution. But if going back to number 3, the entity is not making profit at all, kasi that's supposed to be the mark of an economic activity. You're making production, you're making surplus, you're making profit. Tingin ko po yun yung isang importanteng characteristic na ma-discuss doon sa number 3. Kasi pinapakiramdaman ko pa rin po as of now, nagpo-prospecting na po kasi ako kung sino yung mga i-interviewin. And po talaga napapansin ko, ang NGOs, even religious organizations, kasi kasama po yun sa aking pinoprospect, naka-mold yung kanilang kaisipan na we are in the redistribution business. So we don't generate, we don't produce, we don't generate products, we don't make income, we don't produce. Kami po ay recipient ng donation tapos for redistribution. So kung meron man, yung mga napakaliliit na activities lang, yung mga gagawa ng mga bracelet, yung mga youth, mga ganyan. Tapos, pero pag sinuman doon sa doon sa financial status ng organization, it's more of a token. It's more of a token thing, not really the main characteristic of the organization. Kaya tingin ko po baka yun po yung sa number 3, baka pag nag-prospecting and nag-interview, doon talaga ano, di ba? Sige please, ano lang, I'm just thinking
Sige.
out.
Magandang discussion to, magandang item for discussion. Sige, Tin. What's in your mind?
Sorry, no, sir. I was not muted pala, sorry.
Okay, sige.
Opo. So as I was saying nga po, marami doon sa mga napaprospect ko, I think they would fail, quote unquote, fail doon sa aspect na yon kasi the main characteristic of an SSE is you have to engage in economic activities in order to make profits and surplus for a distribution. So doon ako medyo nagkakaroon ng trouble na ano.
Yeah. Okay, magandang ano yan, issue for discussion kasi maraming mga itong development organizations, charities, foundations, siyempre ang kanilang source of funding is donation or grants, yan. Wala talaga silang income generating activities, very much like yung commercial organizations that trade goods and services, ngayon, isang feature ng one of the features, alam niyo naman yan, is that it must be engaged in economic activities, trading goods and services. But that's only one, that's only one criteria. Ngayon, halimbawa isang organization is 100% dependent on donation, pero nag-engage siya sa pagtulong sa mga tao, yan. So it's not really using that money for self-aggrandizement, Hindi naman ginagamit yan para sa ganun ay magka-coaches siya o kaya magkaroon sila ng magandang buhay, but it's being used to help people, Yan. So kumbaga, yung buong nila na generate from donations are being used for helping the people, Of course, there are organizations that source donations or grants, Pero ang nakikinabang yung organization, not yung mga poor, so makikita mo naman yun kasi lumalaki yung assets ng organization, yung tinutulungan niya poor pa rin, Yan. Now compare that to a cooperative, for example, na nag-generate ng income, lumalaki siya, tumataba siya, nagiging mayaman siya, ang member poor pa rin, So, kumbaga, we find this kind of organizations everywhere, na meron ganyan. Now, one case that I have come across, sila, NGO sila, Tapos tumutulong sila, ito sa Indonesia, tumutulong sila para yung mga tao na walang access sa medical services, matutulungan nila. So, unang ginawa nila is sila, kita nila na isang constraint yung ambulance, vehicle to transport yung patient from rural areas to the clinic, Yan. So sila, they mobilized donations and then finally they were able to buy a van that they converted into an ambulance, Yan. So ngayon, nung inansiran na, kasi nagkataon na yung question na yun, sabi nila, 20% lang siguro yung aming itong funds namin na pumupunta sa aming social mission, Yan. So tinanong ko sila pabalik, ano ba nangyari sa funds ninyo? Saan na pupunta yan? Ay marami po doon sa itong mga services namin, Yan. Marami kaming operating expenses. So, meron ba kayong surplus? Naku, wala po kasi kulang pa nga So, kako ganito yun, lahat ng inyong resources, human and material resources, are committed to doing yung social service ninyo, So, hindi mo masasabi na 20% lang ng inyong surplus nagagamit nyo dyan kasi ibig sabihin nun, pagka sinabi nyo, sabi ko, then 80%, ang context ng question is that, kung sinabi mong 20% ng surplus mo ginamit sa sa mission mo, it implies that 80% of the surplus is used very much like dividends to be distributed to the people inside the organization. Yun ang context ng question na yan. So kako, pag na ganun, pag nangyari yan, ay hindi kayo mapabilang ng social enterprise or SEC entity. Yeah, because you are using donations for purposes of enriching yourself or serving your own self-interest, no? Instead of the mission of the organization. So, kahit na donation yung kanilang minobilize, nagagamit lang lahat doon sa kanilang itong pagsuporta sa kanilang social services. So kako, iyan ang nuance nitong itong ginagawa natin kasi ito rin yung discussion natin sa ILO, sinasabi ng ibang itong expert ng ILO, many social entities, they really have to depend on donation grants, kasi mahirap yung itong ginagawa ng services, protecting the environment, serving the yung mga without access to health, social services, social protection, gano'n. So given yung yung need na yun, kaya may qualification, in other words, doon sa generating income, Of course, that is a long-term normative feature. Why? Because of course, society is expecting organizations to be sustainable. Magiging sustainable lang sila kapag may self-generation ng income. But if they are dependent on external support, pag nawala yan, nawala na rin sila. Yan. But yung struggle with that issue ay ongoing. Ongoing yan. So when you go out there, at talagang magkakaroon ka ng dyan, itong doubt kung totoo ba yan na SEC entity or not. But these are ground for discussion. These are ground for reflection. Ano ba yan?
So, sir, pagka ganun po, sir, i-capture lang.
I-capture lang.
Capture lang.
Kasi it is just one point in a moment. Moment. At di natin alam kung saan siya patutungo later on. However, ang value niyan is pwede naman nating itong i-advise yung organization how it can generate income, it becomes sustainable. Kumbaga, may weakness siya, dependent siya sa donor, kaya yeah. Pero maganda yung kanyang itong objective, to have the people, then very weak lang siya in terms of yung kanyang source of income or source of revenue because it's totally dependent on donation, yan. So kung ganung attitude natin, we will not itong sort of para bang inalis na natin siya sa itong scenario, kasi hindi na siya nag-comply or hindi siya nag-fit doon sa isang criteria. Ganun. So, if we're just using this for purposes of identifying na saan ba sila strong, saan sila weak, there's so much to learn from that. If I were a community development organizer, my attitude is, weak siya dito, maybe I can help, in this organization to strengthen, overcome this weakness, Yan. So, yun ang isang dyan, itong perspective dyan. Kaya, mapapansin niyo later on, maybe one of your conclusions that these features, marami siyang features na SEC, pero marami siyang weakness din, Ganun. So, what can be done with that? From the point of view by community development worker, ito yung challenge niya, Ito yung challenge niya. So, kapag ganun ng itong perspective, yung capacity building program mo will not be parang shotgun approach na, meron ka nang nakitang weakness that you can deal with, no? Yan. So, yan talaga marami. Wala silang income generating activities, eh, no? Wala silang income generating activities. That's why maraming mga microfinance institutions, they have provided the service. Marami yan noon, NGO sila eh. They are dependent on donations, ano? And then they transformed into NGO microfinance institution, naging sustainable sila, no? Yan.
Doc, Ben, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
In terms of legalities, right? Like if you register an SS as an NGO,
Yeah.
then are you allowed to put in a social enterprise component? Isn't it like you need a permit or legally, like with DTI or something? I'm not familiar, like
Okay.
to be able to like earn monies. And then what if you have, so do you have then to register and change that you're no longer nonprofit? Let's say you become an SE, or you're sustainable in terms of that you have an income stream na. Legally, here in the Philippines, what does that mean?
Okay, good question natin, no? According to the Corporation Code of the Philippines, yung for-profit companies, not-for-profit companies, should register only with the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. Pero may distinction kung for-profit ka or not-for-profit, no? Yung for-profit, they have equity capital, no? So pag may equity capital ng doon, expectation ng mga naglagay ng capital dyan is to generate profit. So yung profit ng organization that undertakes economic activities, they are allowed to distribute the dividends, o yung profit to the shareholders. The law allows that. No? Pero kung NGO ka, wala kang equity capital, the law will not allow you to distribute whatever surplus you generate if you undertake to go into business. No? You can go into business. That's itong allowed. No? Now, from the point of view of taxation, however, if you're an NGO and then you have an income generating activity, you are not exempt from tax. Itatax ka pa rin, ano? Yan. Unless mag-register ka sa maybe association foundations at accredited ka, no, na tax free. Yan. So meron tayong mga tong batas na ganyan, but a for-profit organization or company, ang difference lang niya, no, distinguishing factor with a non-profit is that while both theoretically are allowed by law to engage in business, yung for-profit can distribute the surplus to the shareholders. Yung non-profit cannot. It has to plow back yung surplus sa kanyang operations. Yun ang doon, no? Kaya hahabulin ka ng law, no? If for example, wala kang shareholder and yet you distribute yung surplus mo doon sa mga founders ng organization or board members, no? Board of directors, yan. So yun lang doon, na generating profit is one process, no? Distribution of surplus or profit is another itong process. Nagkakatulong doon sa distribution ng surplus. No? Generation of surplus is allowed by law for all. Yan. Again, the law also says that when you generate income or profit, you have to be taxed. Yan, no? Now, a non-profit organization that generates profit, no, is not allowed by law to redistribute the profit and use that for paying dividends. Hindi pwede yun. Kasi wala siyang shareholders. No? So it's not allowed by law. Yun lang pagkakaiba doon. No? So ngayon, that's why NGOs that go into business, like NGO microfinance, they're allowed by law. No? But they're not taxed. Meron silang provision na itatax lang gross income by 2%. That's by law. No? Ganon ginawa sa kanila. Kasi nag-file ng ang BIR noon na dapat itong mga NGO microfinance i-tax sila kasi they have income revenue, no? Nag-argue naman microfinance, we're doing the job, no, of poverty alleviation. It's supposed to be the job of the government. Hindi nagagawa ng gobyerno, kami ang gumagawa niyan. Ba't nyo kami itatax, no? So, for that reason, the Congress and Senate, sabi na sige, 2% tax na lang over on all your revenues. Ayan. Ngayon, in the case of cooperatives, meron din silang tax pero over a certain amount of capital. Below that, wala kang tax. I think it's 10 million. I don't know, it's still 10 million. No? If your share capital, equity capital is 10 million below, libre ka sa tax. Kaya, in order to be free of tax, maraming cooperatives, they report that they are micro and small, no? Para sa ganun ma-exempt sa tax. Yan. Okay. So, let's go to itong ating okay, so yung number 4, how do we approach that kapag merong surplus, tama si itong John itong question that presupposes that that organization is generating profit or surplus. Yan. Sapagkat may surplus yan, pero hindi niya ginagamit, no, para sa tulong sa tao o kaya mag-conserve ng environment. Therefore, ginagamit niya for rewarding the shareholders, no, o yung mga tao niya. Yan. So, yun ay masasabi nating organization na talagang wala siyang impact sa social mission o environmental mission. No? For me personally, I will not consider that organization an SSE entity. Whether that is a cooperative or a foundation, no? Or association. Kasi ang social enterprise, SSE, is supposed to address the social problems of society at saka yung environment, no? The problem of environmental degradation. Yan. So, kung wala siya doon, paano natin siya may consider, no, na is entity siya? However, from the point of view of a research and development worker, kung yun ang kanyang weakness, pwede naman natin siyang kumbinsihin o kaya tulungan, no, na magkaroon ng social at saka environmental mission. Yeah. So, kumbaga yung ating questionnaire is neutral. Nasa atin kasi yung yung analysis Yan. How we make use of the results, ibang usapin yan, ibang usapin. So, halimbawa, yung case mo, no, na napili does not have all the features perfect siya. Hindi siya perfect. Don't worry, no? Pwede nating pag-aralan yan, yung kaso na yan. Yan. So, yun ang ating dito, itong attitude towards this, itong features na ito, no? Kasi, kapag kapilitin mo na hanapin mo yung perfect na itong SSE entity with all the features, strong features, ganyan. Baka after itong June tapos na, wala ka pa rin itong case, Yan. So, yun lang natin. That's why we're looking into this para sa ganon. Just as an exercise, wala namang ginagamit ito, like I said, ginagamit ito ng ILO for mapping purposes, no? Two stage yung kanila kasi itong study. The first stage is minamap nila existing organization, alin dyan yung closest to becoming an SSE. Yung features niya is very close to an SSE. Then they will select that for the case study. Yan. Wala tayong ganong itong luxury of time sa ating klase. Yan. So whatever you itong come across with, i-apply niyo yung itong questionnaire, and then let's look at it, no? Look at it. Yan. Okay, so fifth and last question. When a non-solidarity-based organization, enterprise, no? Non-solidarity-based means non-membership based. Okay? So ano yung mga non-membership based? Foundation, shareholding social enterprise, NGO. Ang membership based ay cooperative, association, mutual society, self-help group. No? These are membership based. Yung non-membership based or non-solidarity based, foundation, shareholding social enterprise, NGO, when they undertake environmental conservation measures, does it also mean that they contribute to poverty reduction or social inclusion, reduction in inequalities? So, maraming social enterprises or foundations, they do environmental conservation, so forth and so on. Ang question, pag nag-undertake ba sila ng environmental project, do they contribute also in poverty reduction or social inclusion? It's a tricky question because these are two different objectives. Social mission is different from environmental mission. Yan. So sa palagay niyo, obvious ba? Kabin.
Sa tingin ko po, opo. Because I read the study conducted by the United Nations showing that there's negative correlation between income inequality and environmental quality. So for example, there's evidence suggesting that more unequal countries have higher per capita ecological footprint than countries that are less unequal, even though they have similar levels of income. And an example I have in mind is the case of the indigenous Tagbanwa women in Calamianes Islands. This is in Palawan, which I read in the news the other day. They're in partnership with an NGO. They help protect migratory marine species such as sea turtles. So they prevent poaching and collecting of the eggs of the turtles. And since women are generally more sensitive to the problem of managing the family income, they educate their husbands and encourage them to comply, especially if it would benefit them financially from tourism and from catching more fish due to protecting the animals or the marine animals in the area. So this could result to higher income for the household and community, thereby reducing poverty as well.
Very good. Ganda ng case mo, no? Kasi meron din naman yung mga natin itong coastal shores natin yung mga yung mga dito yung mga doon habitation doon yan. Pag protect yun, mas maraming isda pumupunta doon, no? So meron lang tong livelihood yung mga tao. But one very interesting case that I've come across, yung mga community forest users sa Nepal, no? Yung forest ng Nepal, merong mga tao sa loob na itong nakatira, no? And then they protect the forest, they grow the forest. For the first time in my life, kako, ngayon ko lang na karoon ng encounter na a case na yung forest ng isang bansa is growing compared to the Philippines na nag-shrink yung ating forest, yan. Secondly, yung mga tao nakatira doon, because they are protecting yung kanilang forest, they generate income from the forest, no? So sabi nila, ito yung aming source of livelihood, itong forest, no? So ito yung mga cases na ganito na pag nag-protect sila ng environment, also contributes to alleviating poverty and also social exclusion, no? Yan. Meron naman kasi na mga environmental itong conservation projects, na malayong-malayo naman sa itong poverty alleviation, like i-protect mo yung yung mga tinatawag na endangered species sa mountain na ganito, ang layo-layo sa Kabayasnan, no? So kumbaga ang layo ng kanyang immediate impact sa poverty alleviation. But there are environmental conservation measures, no, na immediate yung impact niya sa poverty alleviation, saka social inclusion. Yan. Okay, who else would like to comment on that? Wala na bang ibang comment on that? So, just like to encourage you na you answer all the review questions we have kasi I will get yung mga questions for the first exam from these review questions yan. So hindi kayo mahihirapan na itong mag-answer ng mga exam questions, and then yung ating itong exam will be face to face. We will request for a room na doon yung exam natin yan. And
Do you have a date, sir, when that would be?
yeah, I think I have already I will send you again yung schedule natin ng date ng ating. It's after the Holy Week. I think it's after the Holy Week, and that's the first exam. Like I said, the second exam will be your presentation of your case. Because I will be inviting yung mga itong maybe professors ng UP College, social work, to ask questions. Yan. So, yung presentation ninyo, sabi ko nga, will be equivalent to your second exam, then the final exam. Ganun. So, parang oral exam yun. Yung na yun. Kasi magpe-present kayo, and then there will be people who will be asking questions, and you answer the questions. Ganun. Okay, so
Sir?
yeah.
Question lang, just to help me conceptually. When I use SSE as a framework, should I use it as social solidarity economy or social and solidarity economy? If the former, I think it's more, this is not the right term, but limited, probably. For example, an organization that has social features or social roles and solidarity features as well. That's a solidarity stand.
Yeah.
But if I use the social and solidarity economy, probably in the local ecosystem, for example, an NGO without active membership, not engaging in economic activity, but supporting socially the, for example, project participants and beneficiaries, can interact with solidarity organizations, for example, co-ops, people's organization. So that's in one ecosystem. So I get it that the ILO follows the social and solidarity economy, but to you, which is better, social with an end or without an end? Just to help me conceptualize.
Magandang yan, GR, kasi we belong to an international organization called RIPES. This is the Intercontinental Network for the Promotion of Social Solidarity Economy. At yung RIPES uses yung SSE without the and. Yan. Meron siyang reason kasi siguro mas madaling itong bigkasin yung wala na yung and, social solidarity economy. Yan. Pero yung naglalagay ng and, merong dyan itong reason behind it. Kasi meron talagang term na social economy. At yung social economy, very prevalent yan sa Europe. In fact, that is our next lesson, our lesson today. Sa Europe kasi, yung kanilang mga stakeholders sa social economy are people who have been dropped from the formal economy. Yan. Ano nangyari sa kanila? Nawalan ng trabaho, nawalan ng social protection. Kasi nawalan ng trabaho So ngayon, yung social economy ay focusing on integration, reintegration, itong nalaglag doon sa formal economy. So that they will have jobs and then also have access to social protection measures. Yan. So, focus dyan yung itong needs nila for health, itong care, medical care, tapos yung pension nila, So, yun ang itong reason why yung social economy is very prevalent in Europe and developed countries, in the sense that yung itong provision noon ng gobyerno sa welfare ng mga workers nila have been well provided. Tapos nagkaroon ng crisis, And then, because of the crisis, hindi na ma-afford ng gobyerno. no? Nalaglag sila sa trabaho from their then the private companies also could not afford to pay for the unemployment insurance ng mga nalaglag sa trabaho. So what happened was that in many European countries, itong mga tao, individuals that lost their jobs, they banded together and then proposed a scheme to the government. What if gagawa kami ng ganito in order to, for example, help the persons with disabilities? Will you support us? Parang gano'n. No? So kumbaga, our services in exchange for support from the government. Yan. Ganyan ang nangyari sa Korea. No? Because Korea, the aging of people in Korea is faster than most of the countries throughout the world. So the government is worried, because aging population means the government will have to shoulder the social protection, itong social safety net ng mga tao na yan. But it also means that the social base on which the government can generate support, in terms of tax, in order to support yung social protection, social itong measures, lumiliit kasi mas marami ngayon ng population tumatanda, no? Kaya mayroong problema ngayon ng gobyerno na lumiliit yung base niya na kinukunan niya ng taxes. Lumalaki naman yung itong number of people na gagamitan niya ng social safety net measures, So, anong solution diyan? So nakita ng gobyerno na mas efficient, effective itong mga NGOs, na mag-provide ng care, healthcare, medical care, compared to when the government itself does the provision of these services. Kaya maluwat yung kalooban ng gobyerno na sabihin, sige, instead na ako ang gagawa niyan, ikaw nang gumawa, I will pay for your services. Yun ang social economy, no? Social economy. Because any organization, whether it's a foundation or NGO or non-membership based or membership based, can undertake that kind of services. Yan. Meron pa nga sa UK, yung reformation ng mga prisoners. Kasi isang programa ng British government, pagka nakalaya ka na from prison, meron silang program to reintegrate you to society and make you a productive member of society. But maybe 80-90% they have failed in that itong job. Ngayon meron isang very entrepreneurial na organization nag-offer ng service na yun. Kami na lang gagawa niyan. Kami na mag-transform sa kanila to transform them into productive member of society. Nakita ng gobyerno, effective sila, 60-70% ang rate of success nila. So nakumbinsi yung government na, sige, na kami gagawa, kayo na lang, we'll pay you for your services. That's another form of social economic undertaking. So ang client dito ay gobyerno. But mind you, the government is the biggest spender in society, through public procurement. Yan. So isa ito sa itong area for engagement. That's why social economy is quite important. Yung solidarity naman, people are self-organizing, like cooperatives, mutual societies, self-help group, to address yung kanilang mga problema. Yan. Importante ito sa itong countries in the South kasi hindi naman nalaglag yan sa formal economy yung ating mga poor. Nandyan na sila sa informal economy, they cannot be absorbed in the public sector and for private sector for employment, for that reason, they can only find jobs in the informal sector. So yung informality ng economy is quite huge na one way of people overcoming it is organized, They organize cooperatives, self-help groups, mutual societies, and then they undertake activities to have access to resources, no? Address yung kanilang mga needs ngayon. Kaya solidarity economy is also quite important, no? In countries of the South like Latin America, Africa, and Asia. Yan. Actually, yan yung ating iti-take up ngayon, no? So I can elaborate more on that, no? In the ano. But bottom line is, kung ano yung convenience sa iyo, no? Pwede mong gamitin, no? In my case, personally, when I talk to ILO, I use social and solidarity economy. Bakit? Yun ang linggo nila eh, no? Yun ang kanang naintindihan eh, no? But when I am with my colleagues in RIPES, wala yung and, no? Kasi yun ang naintindihan nila, no? But both ILO RIPES, we understand each other, no? Na yun, pareho yung ating itong framework, parang ganyan, no? So, yun ang dyan, itong namin na marami natutunong bakit, ano bang significance ng end, saka yung walang end. Yan. But once you know yung dynamics niyan sa meron kang you don't really mind. But of course, there are advocates of ECC. They like to use social solidarity economy in the sense that sinasabi nila both are yung mga social economy stakeholders sa solidarity economy stakeholders, both are creating a new paradigm. You know? So sabi nila, there comes a point in time na mahirap nang i-distinguish, yung kalang ginagawa. Ang distinguishing factor na lang ay yung normative feature na membership-based. Which becomes, kumbaga, from the point of view of itong impact, hindi na masyado mabigat yon kung halimbawa mayroon silang social at saka environmental mission, and they use their profit for that purpose. So, from that point of view, yung mga nagsasabi na walang end, sa kanila iisa lang yon. Yun naman isang perspective dyan. No? Okay. Does that answer your question, Jer?
Yes, sir. But for me, I think in this case, I will use social and solidarity economy because, for example, if I use it as a tool, yung ILO, and I assess an NGO, for me, there's no problem, for example, if they have low voluntary membership, right? It's absent, actually, in NGOs, right? But I can still call them SSE entity because they have the other features.
Yes.
And stepping back a bit, I'm using the term with an end because I'm looking at the ecosystem, how NGOs relate with, for example, cooperatives, how NGOs support people's organization. And I think social and solidarity economy, and using it as a framework to look at the local ecosystem. I think we should not say, for example, an NGO without voluntary organization, or, for example, there's no autonomy because they're subjected to different government rules. They can still be part of the SSE local ecosystem.
Yes.
Because they support each other. And therefore, I would use the term with an end.
Yes. Yes. That's a good argument, no? Na itong for using end. And yan din ang itong point of view ng UN, no? Agencies like ILO, UN Task Force and SSE, UNREADS, UN Research Institute of Social Development, etc. No? So good. With that, let me now go to my lecture. Kasi yung pinag-usapan natin here, actually, yan ang ating ngayon topic. So let me sana ba yung aking dito? Hindi yan. That. Okay. Can you see my screen? Nakikita niyo ba yan?
Yes, sir.
Oh, is it okay? Yung font na yan, okay sa inyo? Nababasa niyo? Okay na ba yung font na yan? Can you read it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So, itong ating lecture ngayon pala, no? It's about people's practices, ACC in terms of people's practices at saka philosophy or vision. So in other words, what I'm trying to say here is that yung ACC is both philosophy and vision and also practice. Yan. Sometimes these two are congruent. Sometimes they don't cohere with each other. So titingnan natin ngayon ano yung definition, perspective, sa ACC in different parts of the world, so itong si Anup Das, he participated in the ONRID's conference noong 2014. Meron siyang occasional paper, toward an epistemological foundation for social solidarity economy, social and solidarity economy. So maganda itong to. I can show you the article by Anup Das. Ang sabi niya, yung 20th century capitalism is failing the 21st century society, wrote Miliband 2012 in New York Times, summing up concern over the future of global capitalism. The evolving context of the crisis-ridden global capitalism, as well as the 5 mega challenges of the 21st century, namely 1, the green challenge, 2, the inclusion challenge, 3, the well-being challenge, 4, the moral challenge, and 5, the governance challenge, which together constitute the great sustainability challenge created by the flawed model of economy, has increasingly given rise to a questioning of the ability of this paradigm to create the future we want. Therefore, to meet the mega challenges of the 21st century society, we must search for answers beyond the capitalist-socialist divide. Kasi yun ang main natin yan, system, economic system. Capitalism, socialism. Sabi niya, we have to look beyond that divide, or classification. And the state-market dichotomy. Ano yung state-market dichotomy? Yung state, kasi itong dominated the economy, ito na po-provide ng social welfare, under yung New Deal or the Keynesian model. The Keynesian model says the government must spend for social protection, infrastructure, and so forth to create jobs, and also for social protection ng mga tao. Yung market economy says no, you have to minimize the government, let the market function, and the market will undertake the function of social protection at creating jobs. But of course, this dichotomy, state market dichotomy or state market options, hindi rin nag-work. So, ang sinasabi niya, we must search for answers beyond this paradigm. Ngayon, ang SSE, as we have learned from our past itong sessions, is an ethical and values-based approach to economic development, and that it prioritizes the welfare of people and planet over profits and blind growth. Sometimes the word that is used is over capital, in the profits. Okay, so we are now sa ating session natin, we are now looking at SSE na posible ito yung pwede yung sinasabi ni Anup Das na paradigm na alternative dito sa socialist capitalist divide and state market dichotomy. Ngayon, doon sa itong north, in the developed north, yung SSE is seen as a third sector. Yung social solidarity economy ay pangatlo na sector pagkatapos ng public sector as a for-profit corporate sector. So there are ang assumption is that two main sectors of the economy, the public sector and the for-profit corporate sector. These are the two main actors that create economic value, create jobs, and provide for social protection, social safety net in society. Kaya nung mag-emerge itong ECC, social economy and solidarity economy, in the North, it is viewed as ito ang pangatlong sector. Ngayon, sa perspective na yan, emphasis is given in the social entrepreneur and the enterprise. So in the US, nag-umpisa ito with the Ashoka Foundation in the mid-1990s. They promoted the term social entrepreneur. Yung social entrepreneur undertakes new activities dedicated to a social mission. Ang social mission na yan must bring new ways of responding to social problem. Kaya innovator yung social entrepreneur. The social entrepreneur creates innovations to solve social problems, to respond to social problems. That was the definition of Ashoka on social entrepreneur. Now, a social enterprise is typically defined as non-profit organization. Yan ang definition sa US. Kapag social enterprise ka, you are a non-profit organization. Ang ibig sabihin niyan ay you cannot distribute any profit or surplus you generate when you engage in economic activities. So, ginagamit mo lang yung profit mo para doon sa social mission mo o environmental mission. But this organization adopt earned income strategies. No? So, yung earned income strategies, ang kanilang definition earned income, kasama yung, for example, payment from the government or a charity organization for the services that you, in consideration for the services that you provide. No? That might be labeled grant or donation. Okay? Pero from this perspective, yan tinatawag earned income strategy. No? They earned it by providing the social service. So, ito yung perspective sa US. No? Now, sa Europe, yung prevailing thought doon is that yung social entrepreneurship takes place also within the third sector. No? Pero ang third sector is not only comprised of not-for-profit organization. Yung for-profit, private, pwede rin. No? Pwede rin. Yun ang perspective sa sa Europe. No? So, pareho sila ng tingin sa social enterprise, third sector yan. No? Although sa US, limited ang kanilang dyan, non-profit organization. I had the opportunity to help itong a relative register a 501c corporation in itong US. Yung 501c non-profit yon. Doon sa US, pagka nag-register ka as 501c corporation, you have 5 years to prove na non-profit ka. Saka ka pa lang i-evaluate after 5 years. Yan. So pagka non-profit ka, nasa social sector. Yan. Pagka shareholding ka, hindi ka you don't belong to the social sector. You belong to for-profit sector. Ganon ka very definite yung classification sa US. Okay? Again, in Europe, hindi ganon. No? Pwede na shareholding ka pero you use your profit for social mission or environmental mission. Okay. Now, in the mid-1990s, yung EMES, European Research Network, nag-undertake siya ng maraming studies on social enterprises, and it came up with a framework for identifying or defining what a social enterprise is. No? So according to the definition by EMES, merong 4 na criteria to reflect the economic entrepreneurial dimensions of this social enterprise. Number 1, dapat meron siyang continuous activity to produce goods and or selling services. So it produces goods and services and then it trades this in exchange for income. Number 2, high degree of autonomy. From whom? From the government and also from the private sector. So, it doesn't mean to say na hindi siya tumatanggap ng donation, but ang sinasabi dito, dapat malaking bahagi ng kanyang revenue nanggagaling sa selling goods and services. Number 3, significant level of economic risk. Importante ito from the point of view ng IMS kasi kung donation ang ano mo, itong source mo, like sa gobyerno, no? Nag-undertake din ng development work projects ang gobyerno pero wala naman siyang risk. Kasi pag nag-fail siya, binabayaran naman siya ng tax. No? Yan. So kailangan, meron siyang, nag-undertake siya a significant level of economic risk. No? This is reflected doon sa kanyang business. Yan. So, yung maraming organizations that are 100% on donations, hindi ito makaklassify ng EMS as social enterprise kasi it's not undertaking economic risk. Number 4, kailangan hindi lahat ng workers mo ay voluntary. Kailangan meron din mga workers mo na paid ang kanilang trabaho. So there must be a minimum amount of paid labor. Yan. Hindi lahat ay voluntary. Yan. Okay. So ito yung economic and entrepreneurial dimension ng social enterprise. Meron din namang 5 criteria to reflect yung social dimension. Number 1, explicit aim to benefit the community. Kailangan talagang meron siyang yung kanyang aim talaga, ang kanyang itong ethos for existence is to benefit communities. Number 2, initiative launched by a group of citizens. So, itong group of citizens na ito, they might not organize a membership-based organization. They might organize a foundation. Pero, grupo sila. Nag-undertake niyan. They might even organize a for-profit company, or shareholding company. Okay. Number 3, decision-making power is not based on capital ownership. Okay. So dito, yung kanilang contribution, hindi yun ang basis ng kanilang decision making. So maaring hindi equal yung kanilang sharing sa capital, but they make it a point that when they make decisions, para silang kooperatiba, one man, one vote. Ganon sila. Number 4, participatory nature, which involves various parties affected by the activity. So hindi lang isang sector, like for example, farmers, lahat yan, multi-sectoral. Maraming ganong itong social enterprises sa Europe, na meron sa tinatawag na social cooperative. A cooperative whose stakeholders come from various sectors of society. Hindi lang professionals, pero mayroong farmers, halo-halo, ang kanilang stakeholders. Number 5, limited profit distribution. So again, ito ay it presumes that this organization is engaged in business, generating profit, but that profit is not totally distributed or redistributed to the whoever contributed itong equity capital. Okay. Now, meron tayong mga countries sa Europe, and I have selected some that have promulgated, nag-adapt sila ng framework law to recognize and define what is a social enterprise. Sa Italy, meron sa tinawag na social cooperative. Ang cooperative na ito has various types of stakeholders. Mayroong mga workers dyan, mayroong professionals, mayroong fishermen, iba-iba, stakeholders. Yeah, that's number 1 criteria. And then it delivers social, health, education services. Pagka yun ang kanyang itong services na pinaprovide, social, health, or educational, type A social cooperative siya. Pero kung it provides work for disadvantaged people, women, PWD, yung mga immigrants, ganyan, type B siya na social cooperative. So providing it basically provides work for these disadvantaged people. Now in 2005, the Italian government once again came up with a new law. They have now recognized under this law not-for-profit organizations. Ibig sabihin, hindi katulad ng cooperative, wala itong equity capital, no? Not-for-profit. That produces social utility, for example, welfare services, work integration, environmental services, health and education. So it broadened the definition of social enterprise. Sa UK naman, meron silang law that recognizes community interest company. So itong community interest company, meron siyang requirement dyan, no? Na yung pag register ka, dapat ipapakita mo na meron kang interest sa isang community. No? Why? Ipoprove mo. Ano pa interest mo sa community na yun? Why are you engaged in that community? No? And then, meron kang asset na ilalagay doon sa community na yan. No? So, hindi lang yung location, no, ang i-consider nila, kundi meron ka rin ilalagay na asset dyan. Locked-in asset yan. No? Na ilalagay mo dyan at i-commit mo, hindi mo tatanggalin dyan. No? To ensure that the new entity is dedicated to its expressed community purpose. Sa Portugal naman, in 1997, meron silang framework law for what they call social solidarity cooperative. This is a cooperative that cannot distribute its profits to stakeholders. No? So, walang distribution of profits. It generates profit, but it cannot distribute the profit. It provides services for work integration. Ano ba yung work integration? Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na ito yung mga population or members ng society that could not find work in either the public sector or private sector. No? So, pagka merong isang social organization called Social Solidarity Cooperative na mag-register at ang kanyang objective ay i-employ yung mga vulnerable groups, people with disabilities, social disadvantaged families, women, communities, no? Ito ay nire-recognize ng gobyerno and they have also incentives for that. No? Sa Spain, in 1999, they also have what they call social initiative cooperative. There's any type of cooperative providing social services in developing economic activity aiming at work integration of socially excluded persons. Again, yung term na work integration. No? Very common yan sa Europe, yung sinasabi ko kanina na focus talaga nila is to provide jobs. No? Kaya malakas sa ILO yung itong decent work, no? Creation of jobs or work integration. Like I said, yan yung motivation ng Korean government to support yung social solidarity economy initiative sa Korea. No? Because it employs yung mga older persons. Okay. Now, Greece, meron silang limited liability social cooperative. No? This is based on partnership between individuals and the target group. So merong mga entrepreneurial individuals, tapos merong disadvantaged group, yun ang target group nila, nagtayo sila ng limited liability social cooperative. So instead of these two groups of people, makikita natin yan sa karamihan sa Pilipinas. Merong, for example, number of people organized probably as an NGO or foundation, gusto lang tulungan yung target beneficiaries. Ano? Dito, sa France, no, ang isang framework ko, sinabi nila, bumuo na lang kayo ng itong organization, call it Collective Interest Cooperative Society para ma-recognize kayo. No? So, instead na dalawang body kayo, magsama na kayo sa isang organization and we will recognize that under this law. No? So, yung mga volunteers, employees, and other partners, no, they can work together in a given local development project. Sa Belgium naman, in 1996, they created yung tinatawag ng social purpose company. No? This refers to all types of business corporations which are not dedicated to the enrichment of their members. No? The company must define a profit allocation policy in accordance with its social purpose and provide for procedures allowing its employee to participate in the enterprise governance to the ownership of capital shares. So pwedeng magkaroon ng capital share yung ano dito, yung mga shareholders or members. Pero yung kanilang profit allocation policy ay dapat malaking bahagi, if not all, no, of the profit should accrue to finance yung kanilang social purpose. Dapat nakalagay yan sa kanilang constitution, no, or bylaws ng organization. Okay, so conclusion natin, no, in general, yung emergence ng social enterprise and social economy sa North, no, northern countries, was a matter of countering the welfare state crisis. Ano ba yung welfare state crisis, no? Na yung public sector is no longer able to provide for insurance coverage, unemployment insurance, even provide for yung long life, whole life na itong employment, no? In other countries ay itong yung kanilang social benefits nawawala na, no? Unemployment insurance wala na rin, yan. And they could not anymore guarantee yung continuing employment ng dating lang employees, ano? Ito yung nagiging itong tinawag na welfare state crisis, no? Kasi yung concept ng welfare state, the government provides for the social protection, social safety net ng kanyang population, no? And then the lack of effective regulation on social protection mechanisms. So nawala yung kanilang itong social safety net. For example, in the US, maraming mga ngayon, itong bagong lang, nag-retire, sabi nila, yung privileges ng mga old people noon, hindi na namin na yan. We don't benefit it out. Hindi na namin tinatamasa yan. No? We are not enjoying it anymore. No? Samantala yung mga parents namin ay ang dami-dami nilang social benefits. Kami ngayon, pati yung aming pension plan ay gustong kunin ng gobyerno. No? So yun ang tinatawag na welfare state crisis. No? For that reason, yung pag-emerge ng mga social enterprise types or social economic types of organizations have been welcomed in the North, no? For this purpose. They call it yung work integration, no? Work integration social enterprise. Maraming ganito sa Europe. Mga social enterprises that are focusing on work integration. Ang ibig lang sabihin yan, i-reintegrate siya doon sa society through work, na maging part ulit siya ng productive members of society. Yan. So, nire-reintegrate siya also doon sa schemes ng social protection, no, mechanisms. Ganyan. So yun ang yung main agenda, main objective ng pagsuporta ng social enterprise, social economy sa Europe. No? Even in South Korea, as I mentioned earlier. The main objective wise o yung work integration social enterprise is to help low qualified unemployed people who are at risk of permanent exclusion from the labor market. Yung mga WISE o work integration social enterprises integrate these people into work and society through a productive activity. So yun ang niya, no? Itong as I explained a while ago kay JR. No? Now, ano nangyayari sa developing countries like in South Africa, Latin America, and Asia? The main challenge sa developing countries or less developed countries is that yung material conditions required for survival ng mga tao ay wala, no? I mean, mabuhay, itong precarious, no? Yung poverty is halos permanente, no? It is endemic and then it is widespread, no? Now, itong ating mga po, they have never been integrated in the market economy or in the social protection system, the formal, no? Nasa informal kasi sila. Kaya yung feature ng informality ng economy, isang malaking bahagi bakit iba ang karakter ng social solidarity economy sa less developed countries compared doon sa developed countries. No? So, ang pagsabi ko nga yan, yung mga stakeholders ng SSE sa Europe, northern countries, yun ang mga nalaglag sa formal system. Ano? Yan. And so, ang gustong gawin nila ngayon is to be reintegrated so that they will have access to social protection system at magkaroon sila ng jobs. Dito naman sa atin, maraming tao hindi na integrated in the first place, no? Sa formal economy. They cannot be accepted. They cannot be employed in the public sector nor in the private sector. Wala silang social protection system. No? Yan ang given. Yan. So ngayon, yung solidarity economy ay importante kasi the only way that they can overcome the situation is to band together, work together, bayanihan, damayan. Yan. No? Enterprises and organizations that operate in accordance with the values and principles of PCC are heavily engaged in fighting against poverty, and misery and creating short and medium-term alternatives to capitalism. No? Kasi, yun nga, the market economy, also called capitalism, has also failed, no? Na ma-integrate itong mga workers natin, mga population natin, that are working in the informal economy. So in other words, the informal economy is an indication that a large portion of the population are not integrated in the formal sector. They don't have social protection. Yan, no? Implication yan. Now, yung initiatives in countries like this, no? They have to build a new ecosystem that will not contain no, yung processes that exploit and reproduce inequalities. So makita niyo yung pagkakaiba ng struggle in the developed north sa south. Ayan. Sila kasi meron silang opportunity to be reintegrated into the formal system. Alam nila yung formal system, no? They only have to develop their own initiative. Dito hindi, no? Iba yung situation. Innovations such as microfinance, fair trade, community-supported agriculture have been widely used to develop better sources of income and provide alternative social protection schemes for the marginalized and socially excluded. So dito ngayon, no, yung concept ng social economy, solidarity economy, ay kakaiba talaga yung context sa less developed countries. No? Kasi yung social protection schemes sa less developed countries applied to the informal sector, karamihan dyan ay gawa ng mga tao mismo. Mutual societies, mutual insurance schemes, microfinance, gano'n. So marami mga innovations na ginagawa dyan in order that they create their own ecosystem. No? Yan. Now, examples ng PCC initiatives in Latin America. For example, sa Colombia, yung mga itong waste pickers, marami tayong ganyan sa Pilipinas, yung mga nagbabasura. No? Nag-recycle sila, tapos they sell yung kanang produkto doon sa mga company. No? Sa Brazil, meron silang landless rural workers movement. Ginawa nila, they banded together, and then they produce their own lending facility by mobilizing savings, and then they joined the organization so that they can augment yung kanilang itong resources. Tapos they also engage in education. No? They established primary schools, and then they trained teachers. Meron din silang nursery and so forth. No? So ito yung initiative nila to address yung kanilang mga economic and social problems. So these are itong examples of how people create their own innovations, create their own initiatives to address yung social problems nila. No? Pero yung Villa El Salvador, 350 inhabitants, set up in 1907, an industrial park. Itong industrial park na ito, they mobilized funding, they conducted training, provided technical assistance to support yung development enterprises ng mga inhabitants. No? So the initiative generated 30,000 jobs na employed by 8,000 small enterprises which they created. No? So makikita nyo na itong initiative na ito is from the people for the people. Parang ganon. Brazil, yung Residents Association ng Palmyra, nagtayo sila ng Banco de Palmyra. No? Tapos gumamit sila ng local currency. May sarili silang currency. No? So naging self-sufficient sila. They do not use the official currency. Itong ano na ito sa Palmyra. So their bank support the production of handicrafts, clothing, so on and so on, no? As a tourist agency. And then they have a fair trade shop. Yan. So klinos nila yung gap, no, from production to marketing sapagkat may fair trade shop sila. Kaya mga produkto, they sell it through the fair trade shop. Yung mga local producers can display yung kanilang produkto dyan sa shop na yan. Okay. How about in Asia? What is the landscape of social enterprise in Asia? Ito, this is taken from my itong paper that I submitted to ILO. Yung policy landscape sa Asia, no? Kasi sa Europe, marami na talaga kanang mga policy, no? Framework law. Yan, nag-create sila ng law. And this law lead to the creation of new entities, no? But what is happening in Asia? So I classified yung mga countries in Asia in terms of apat na itong categories. The first are countries na andun pa lang sa setting ng agenda o an issue of social enterprise policy. So mga countries na ganito, they're conducting conferences, forums, policy dialogues, discussing about developing SSE, pero wala pa rin silang policy. No? For example, Bangladesh. No? Bangladesh, andun yung BRAC, no? The largest social enterprise in the world. Andun ang Grameen Bank, architect of contemporary microfinance, no? And author of particular social business model. No? Yung business model ni Muhammad Yunus, meron isang company, nag-donate sa kanya ng pera, ginamit niya to set up a hospital. Tapos ang kanilang usapan, wala akong ibibigay sa iyo, Mr. Donor, na interest or profit from this itong endeavor, no? Isusulog ko sa iyo yung itong capital, walang profit. Yan. After 4 years, yung kanyang first hospital, nag-recover ng capital, no? Susulin niya sa donor, sabi ng donor, hindi, gamitin mo ulit. So ginamit niya ulit, ngayon may dalawa na siyang hospital, no? So after itong hospital, sabi niya, nakat down niya yung itong number of years of recovering yung initial capital. So, gano'n siya ng gano'n. Reinvest siya ng reinvest. No? Yun ang concept niya ng social enterprise o social business. No? So, ang ibig ko lang sabihin dito, andyan na yung pinakamalaki, pinakasikat na social enterprise, pero wala silang social policy. I mean, policy on social enterprise. No? Okay. Ganon din yung Singapore. Wala rin siyang framework law on social enterprise. Pero meron siyang Singapore Center for Social Enterprise. Dito ngayon pwedeng mag-register yung mga social enterprises. At itong center na ito, it gets support from the government. No? So, and then also from impact investors. In fact, kilala ko ito, I introduce this to our partners in yung mga social enterprise organization that promotes the social enterprise development roadmap. Kasi sabi ko, kailangan sa Pilipinas dapat magkaroon din ng itong impact investment, no? Meron din tayong ganyang initiative that can attract impact investors sa Pilipinas, So, itong Singapore, itong RACE, Singapore Center for Social Enterprise, ang CEO nito is my friend for the last 15-20 years. When I met him in itong Bangkok, isang UNESCAP meeting, sabi ko sa kanya, Alfie, tulungan mo naman kami sa Pilipinas mag-attract ng impact investors. Ang sarap ng ngiti niya. Of course, Ben, I'll help you. No? So yun ang dito na ang advice nila sa Pilipinas, huwag muna kayo ng framework law kasi pag may framework law na, you gotta straight jacket is social enterprise. No? Kasi meron ng itong parameters. Mag-innovate muna kayo. And then pag may innovation na, saka kayo propose ng framework law. Yan. Sa Pakistan, there is already a Center for Social Entrepreneurship established in 2015, pero wala pa rin silang policy. No? So training lang, entrepreneurship, to promote innovation, social entrepreneurship. But there is no law that really promote and support social enterprises. Ito yung tinatawag ko mga agenda setting countries. Yan. Sri Lanka, India, ganon din. Sri Lanka, ang daming social enterprise doon. Lalo sa India, kasi doon ang galing Ashoka. At saka yung gobyerno, meron sang programa ng support ng mga self-help groups all over the country. And these self-help groups, I don't know if I have told you already, I created a program called Linking Bank and Self-help Groups in early 1980s. At, dito sa India, naging itong widespread, and maybe there are now 300 million poor or small major enterprises that are participating in it, with the support of NABARD, National Bank for Agricultural Rural Development. Okay, so yun ang agenda setting that includes itong mga organizations or countries na very vibrant ang social enterprise sector. Meron naman yung tinatawag kong formation of EC policy, nasa formative stage sila. Isang case yung Vietnam. Meron ng social enterprise law ang Vietnam as early as 2014. Yung law na yan, the enterprise law nila, contains a definition of social enterprise. Ngayon, ang social enterprise is defined by the enterprise law. Dapat yung social enterprise na yan, o enterprise na yan, must address or solve a critical or social or environmental problem in a financial, sustainable, potentially profitable way. Yun ang kanilang definition. Now, yung mga nag-register doon, there are about 100,000 plus social enterprises in Vietnam. Yung representative ng social enterprise in Vietnam was also in that UN SCAP meeting I attended in December last year. Sabi niya 116,000 yung kanang social enterprise. Pero less than 200 ang naparegister. So most of these social enterprise na pa-register ay nagka-create ng jobs. They offer jobs. So in other words, kukunti lang yung nag-avail ng provision ng law. So isang argument ko dyan ay pag nag-create ka ng law, baka lalong matakot yung mga social enterprise magpa-register kasi makontrol sila ng gobyerno. Isang factor yun. Okay. Then you have also the case of the Philippines. Formative stage din tayo. Meron tayong present bill. Poverty reduction through social enterprise or present bill sa Pilipinas. That was sinalang yan noong 2014. Hanggang ngayon, pinagdidebatihan pa rin yan sa Congress. In fact, I just received an invitation last Friday na inviting me to attend yung Senate hearing on present bill. Pero sabi ko, meron namang official representative ang ASEC Philippine Network, si Dr. Ofreneo, Rosalinda Ofreneo, saka Dr. Nancy Verceles, sila na lang imbitahin. Yan. Dito sa Pilipinas, yung present bill has a specific definition of social enterprise. Kailangan, sabi nitong present bill, ang social enterprise must explicitly declare na nagpupulsa siya ng poverty reduction or improving the quality of life of a specific segment ng marginal sector. Yun ang principal objective nila. Yung marginal sector sa Pilipinas is defined by NAPSI, National Commission for Poverty Alleviation. Meron tayong mga sectors, I think 13. Yun ang sinasabi dito na specific segments niya, farmer ba yan, labor, fishermen, and so forth, women, ganyan. The bill provides for the creation of Social Enterprise Development Council, attached agency ng Department of Trade and Industry, tasked to carry out promotion, growth, and development of these social enterprises. Tapos may proposed budget na 3 billion pesos. So, formative stage pa tayo in terms of policy ng social enterprise in the Philippines. Meron namang startup na. Yung startup, in terms of policy, EC policy, ay kasama ang Thailand saka itong Malaysia. meron na silang social enterprise bill. Ano? Sa Thailand, na-pass na ito in 2016, meron silang legal definition for social enterprises, saka meron tax incentives. No? So, according to this Social Enterprise Promotion Bill 2019, amended in 2019, a social enterprise is a company, a juristic partnership which must, number one, be established under Thai law with objectives of operating a business for the sale of goods or provision of services. Number two, aim to promote employment at the location of its social enterprise or solve problems or develop local communities, societies, or the environment. Number three, not emphasize maximizing profits for shareholders or partners with at least 70% of its profit invested back into the business or for the benefit of farmers, the poor, the disabled, disadvantaged, etc. So meron siyang profit itong limitation na at least 70% ng kanyang profit mapunta sa kanyang social and environmental mission. Yan yung case ng Thailand. Meron din naman Malaysia. Meron sa accreditation center, yung MAGIC. Siya ang nag-provide ng incentives para sa mga social enterprises. So kinaklasify sa Malaysia, 3 level ng social enterprise. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3. Yung Level 1, pagka nag-declare ka, self-declare ka na social enterprise ka, Level 1 ka na. Ibig sabihin, naka-register na ka na sa online platform nila. No? So wala pang yan, incentive, basta nag-register ka lang. Yung Level 2, in-apply na nila yung accreditation criteria. Meron silang accreditation criteria. No? What is that for? Para sa ganon, makasama ka sa nilang mga programa. No? Kung hindi ka accredited, you cannot participate in the government-supported program. Level 3 is A+ ka na. Social enterprise A+ ka na. Fully accredited, dito magkikik itong tax exemption. Wala kang tax exemption kung hindi ka is A+. No? You have to reach that level to avail of tax exemption. Ngayon, yung mga accredited, yung level 2, social enterprise, ang incentive sa kanila, they will be listed doon sa online platform noong MAGIC. Itong online platform nila, they can connect you to several itong stakeholders, bangko, buyers, and so forth and so on. So meron din incentive itong is A na itong social enterprise in Thailand. Then, ito yung tinatawag kong yung policy niya is meron siyang policy growth tawag ko dito growth stage. May policy na siya. The case of South Korea. Yung South Korea has 3 periods during which meron siya iba-ibang strategy for developing social economy. They call it social economy. But now, they're using more and more yung social and solidarity economy term. 1997 to 2011, direct financing for individual social enterprises. Ang ginagawa nila doon, pag nagtayo ka ng social enterprise, the government will pay for all your labor costs. Yun ang subsidy nila. Because labor cost is substantial. It comprise at least 50% ng operating cost mo. So malaking bagay yon na lahat ng empleyado mo, especially kung ang empleyado mo ay older persons, PWD, you will be given itong support by the government. They will pay for the cost of labor. 2012 to 2018, indirect support by fostering ecosystems for the social economy. Ano yung ecosystem na yon? Meron silang center, social enterprise center, where you can avail of technical assistance from planning to model building to access to partners, partnering, and so forth and so on. Maraming bagay doon. So, bawat itong municipality or city, meron silang social enterprise center. And that social enterprise center can help social enterprises connect to resource providers from financing to market to input supply. 2019 to 2022, yung tinatawag ng citizen-centered social economy initiatives. Itong citizen-centered social economy, ginagawa na dito, fini-phase out yung support ng gobyerno. no? And then fini-face in nila yung support ng citizens. Yun ang ibig na sabihin, no? Actually, the government is trying to phase out yung kanyang to involvement, direct involvement in growing, supporting social enterprises, and they're now opening it to the public to support the social enterprise, no? So in the past, the government has been supporting mga trade fairs, no, or fair trade activities in all communities all over itong Korea to promote the product of social enterprises. This paved the way for raising the awareness of Korean people of the existence, no, and the usefulness of social enterprise in Korea. That also ushered in the potential na magkaroon ng transition from government-centered support ng SSE to citizen-centered support for SSE. No? So they have been able to do that. Ngayon, ano yung support organizations ng social enterprise sa Korea? Merong national level, meron din sa local level. No? Hindi lang national itong agencies. No? At the local level, yung mga local government units, they are also organized to provide support. No? Kaya ang ganda ng itong talagang support sa social enterprises sa Korea kasi concerted effort, no, of the national government as well as the local government units. In fact, in Korea, maraming mga mayors, saka local council members from the social enterprise sector that have been elected as mayor, council members, no, local government council members, gano'n. Dahilan sa naging popular yung social enterprise doon sa Korea. And then, yung central government level, meron silang specific itong mga suporta, no, like certification, tax exemption, insurance, and so forth and so on. So local government na mostly mga technical management support, no, technical assistance para sila, they can comply with the national requirements, no, certification requirements. So local agencies are the ones managing and operating the social enterprise support centers. Ngayon, isang tanong sa Korea, they wanted to know ano ba ang impact ng government-led social enterprise development. Kasi sa Korea, talagang inaruga ang social enterprise sector ng gobyerno. No? So, napakalakas ng suporta sapagkat ang kanilang ang kanilang objective is to ease the burden of supporting yung mga older persons. Kasi kung walang income yung mga older persons, they will just rely on pension. No? Eh, hindi na kaya ng gobyerno kasi dumadami yung mga older persons sa South Korea. So, instead of using the money to increase yung provision ng gobyerno ng social pension ng mga elderly persons, they now shifted that budget to support yung job creation ng mga social enterprises. So sabi niya, JR, John, instead na bibigyan ko ng subsidy directly, mag-employ kayo dito sa social enterprise kasi yung sweldo ninyo, bibigyan kayo, ako mag-subsidize ang sweldo niyo doon. Parang ganon ginawa nila. So, when I visited Korea, marami talaga mga matatanda, meron silang social enterprise, no? Gumagawa ng mga sweets, no, cookies, ganyan, ang dami-dami mga produkto, no. So, with this, hindi ko nalagay dito yung itong mga cases ng mga social enterprises in Asia, but what I will do is I will send you a copy of my paper I wrote for ILO, yung mga cases ng social enterprises, SEC enterprises in Asia, no? South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia. Ang dami-dami, no? So that katulad ng ginawa ko doon sa Latin America sa Europe, meron silang mga cases doon, but dito kasi kinapos ako ng oras, but I'll send you that itong publication. So that ends my lecture, and I hope meron kayong more knowledge saka awareness ano yung pagkakaiba ng pananaw, no, sa social enterprise, social society economy sa northern countries, saka countries in Latin America, Asia. Africa, meron din ako doon sa itong paper ko, no? You can, I have not included this in my lecture. And then pagkakaiba nun dito sa mga countries like Philippines, no, Latin American countries, whose economies harbor or include a big sector of informal economy, no? Yun ang context niya. Yan. And the situation of framework law legalizing or recognizing, no, formally the sector in Asia, yun yung sinasabi kong policy landscape. Iilan lang countries ang nag-recognize pa, although marami ng itong mga conferences na ginagawa, no, tungkol sa social enterprises sa ating mga country, like in the Philippines, andyan pa rin yung present bill, no? Pinag-uusapan pa rin, hindi pa rin napapasa. Yan. Kaya yun ang situation natin sa atin. Kung tatanungin niyo, ano ba ang itong advantage ng karoon ng framework law, no? Of course, ang target dyan talaga ay number 1, tax exemption, number 2, participation in public procurement. Yan. Of course, pagka may recognition na, ay you can be part ng program budgeting ng gobyerno. Yan. Kaya yun ang advantage no. But our colleagues in Singapore have been telling us, wag muna, no. Hindi pa ninyo na organize yung social enterprise sector ninyo. Pag nagkaroon ng diyan, itong policy diyan, ang magdedetermine ng wording diyan hindi naman kayo Yung mga senators niyo at congressmen, no. May kanya-kanyang vested interest yan. So paano na yan kung halimbawa yung framework law na straight jacket kayo, no? Mahirap nang baguhin yan. Marami bang mga amendments yan, mahirap na Yun ang kanang advice sa amin. No? Ngayon, the stalling of the present bill, sa akin, okay lang yan kasi we're still organizing yung social enterprise sector. Pero kung andyan na, iba na yung ating takbo ng ating no? Advocate ng policy. Okay, so any questions, no, insights dito sa ating ngayon in terms of perspective on issues of social economy from different countries. Kaya ngayon, medyo itong naging complicated yung ating subject, Instead na sana maganda na yung ating pagtingin sa social economy. Ngayon, nag-broaden na, no? But that is itong the academic way of looking at things, you have to consider the entire itong universe of ideas that contribute to the development of this concept and practice of ACCE. Okay, any question? Ano ba kayong gusto itanong?
Sir, ko lang ko sa experience ng Vietnam.
Yes.
You mentioned that they already have a law,
Yes.
pero mas how do you call it? Na-discourage sila. Ganun ho ba nangyari? Maybe we can learn from their experience.
Okay, that's good. Actually, ang itong feedback sa amin, hindi pa nila alam talaga kung ano yung programa ng Vietnam government. Ano pang incentives para sa social enterprise, So they are parang wait and see sila sa itong attitude nila. Kasi nandoon lang yung law, isang itong statement, isang paragraph. Pero ano ba talaga ang plano ng gobyerno? May budget ba sila? Meron ba silang diyan itong provision ng mga capacity building program? Wala no? So wait and see muna sila karamihan. Ngayon, tulad din ng registration ng SIM card sa atin, no? Maraming itong nagdududa para saan ba yan? Parang ganyan, no? So, ganun talaga pagka mayroong registration. So, na-meet ko yung representative ng Vietnam doon sa UNESCA plus December. Isa ito sa mga tanong, no? So, ang sagot niya, where ang mga tao ay pa sila they're still waiting for more information from the Vietnam government. Kung ako ay mag-register as social enterprise, ano mahihita ko dyan? Ano yung aking benefits, no? What are the advantages? Para sa ganun, I will be convinced na mag-register ako dyan. Pero kung wala, why should I register? Parang ganyan. Okay, so isang ano yon, itong stumbling block. But even ano sa Thailand, meron silang 16,000 ano doon, social enterprises. Pero less than 160 lang nag-register as of ano, itong December. No? Because I met also the Social Enterprise Promotion Office of Thailand doon sa ESCAT meeting na yun. So, ang rason nila bakit ganon ay hindi pa talaga naintindihan ano ba talaga yung social enterprise itong promotion na yan, sino ba ang pwedeng ano dyan, ano ba ang incentives, ano? Hindi pa klaro. So, yun ano ngayon, meron silang Social Enterprise Promotion Office. So, they're going out all over Thailand to promote nga yung itong buy-in ng social enterprise ng Thailand doon sa programa nila. Between Vietnam at Thailand, medyo mas advanced itong Thailand initiative because they are now looking into yung mga incentives para sa mga social enterprise, and marami na silang itong experience diyan kasi yung king nila, previous king nila, the king was supporting actually yung social enterprise sector ng Thailand lalo na yung mga women weavers ng Thailand. Very supportive yung king diyan. Kaya in a way, they have this experience already that they have to formalize it in order to kumbaga, substantiate yung kanilang social enterprise law.
Thank you, sir.
Any further question? So, alam niyo na yung pagkakaiba ng pag-iisip, no? Kasi yung definition ng social enterprise ay mapapansin niyo kasama yung mga na-mention nating SSE entities, di ba? Cooperatives, associations, foundations, mutual societies, self-help groups, no? Kasama doon sa mga tinatawag na social enterprise entities din, ano? Kaya kung minsan, pag nagbabasa ka ng itong literature on social enterprise, lahat ng mga entities na yun, cooperatives lalabas, NGOs lalabas din, microfinance lumalabas din, ano? Tapos yung mga shareholding companies lumalabas din, ano? So yun ang doon, associations lumalabas din. Kaya kahit na sinabi nating social enterprise pinag-uusapan natin, pwede mong dito itong basahin yan na it could also mean social solidarity economic enterprise, no? Kaya lang, at this point in time, wala pa talagang itong framework law, karamihan ng countries on SSE except France, yung Brazil, no, Belgium, ganun. Talagang meron silang framework law on social solidarity economy. Tsaka meron silang itong ministry, no, or department sa France, sa Brazil. Meron silang Belgium, they have this ministry focusing on SSE. Yan. Any itong so what do you think ito ako magtatanong sa inyo, no? Ano yung pros or benefits of having a framework law? Yeah. Kasi yan ang una-unang tinatanong ng karamihan dapat merong conducive policy environment, Yeah. Later on, we will be tackling that, no? But that's one question that is always asked, by international organizations, by advocacy organizations, anong policy environment for SSE entities? Why is it important? Why is policy conducive policy environment important. Ano ang conducive policy environment? Yan. So, ano yung basically ano yung benefit or advantages of a policy framework? Yeah. Is ano? Who would like
Can
to
can I answer and
Sige.
ask a question as well?
Oh. Sige. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I bench this Mike Aluna, no?
Oh,
Well, there are advantages of there's a policy in that regard, and perhaps your organization, ASEC, etc., no, can initiate a policy recommendation. Like for instance, why not, if government is spending so much in ayuda anyway, with all consumptive expenditures that go out, it's wasted once it's spent, just like giving out fish dole out, no? So why not organize thousands of economic cadres, I mean professionals, hire them for a year or two to help organize cooperatives, people's organizations that will become productive social entrepreneurs. Then at the aim of each hired, maybe a fresh grad, train them, no? Maybe take the lead. Their aim is to let this organization they're gonna organize be sustainable, productive, viable, that and let them be absorbed eventually as stakeholders as well. Parang cooperatives, ba? That way, you can translate your advocacy, social solidarity economy on a mass scale. So the framework can easily follow which the Singapore are waiting. So we can initiate, because this maybe I think a fast track way, no? And we can initiate also incentives for those who are the best in best practices. So you create competitions among LGUs, provincial, municipal, etc., rural, urban, etc. So then even among the top schools, state colleges and universities, no, since government is funding them anyway, the cream of the crop, let them be organized, let them be involved in a mass scale. And secondly, perhaps it's possible to create a program. That's where policy also comes in. Tap the seniors, elderly, who have a compassion, who wants to do to work beyond their retirement years, because they have the brains, they have the background, the wisdom. They can help maybe on a voluntary basis with a little allowance of some sort to cover their costs, something like that. And this is how you can marry the young and the old. Since you mentioned about South Korea, there's a peculiar relationship in the Korean example. Like the farmers there, they own their farms, they own their factories, their own factories. But the people running their factories and their farms are graduates of universities who know marketing, finance, management. So there is a peculiar and amazing relationship between the young and the old, the educated, less educated, the professionals and less skilled, etc. So ang boss nila ay empleyado nila. Kumbaga, ang empleyado nila ay boss nila. So yun yung peculiar, but ang ganda ng relationship, because here the opposites can learn from each other. So, and if you push this can be you can possibly trigger a policy national debate in that regard, from the DepEd to the CHED to in media, etc. So once you create the discussion, the discourse, so we elevate the discourse along that line, how to tap and mobilize by the thousands seniors and by the thousands young professionals who want to dedicate their lives. Because if you notice, many of the educated, they go abroad. There are almost 12 million Filipinos abroad. Brain drain, di ba? Other, karamihan migrants na, no? Madami OFW din. But the few educated who are working for the poor, karamihan nasa kaliwa naman in human rights, environmental, no? But not very few into project development, business development. So that's what that's what's lacking. Creating what you're pushing is social enterprises. And many of the co-ops naman, puro credit co-ops. And credit co-ops, they've been lending to their members. Lumobo na lumobos ang co-ops, pero ang members hindi yumaman because they're growing from the usurious rates charged on members, something like that. So I think there should be a paradigm shift in all aspects in terms of organization. As to organization farm, I was even thinking of the idea, which I posted on chat here, na is it possible to come up with corporatives, corporate structure, SEC, but co-op principles ang papatakbo, no? Why? Because the way CDA is running the co-ops, they require so rigorous reportorial requirements. Like for instance, 7 documents on annual reportorial, and grabbing too much ano ba? And yet they're demanding so much from some co-ops sa basic sectors, no, na walang kaalam-alam. And many of our basic sectors, they're left to fend for themselves. Walang katulong na professionals. And that's what like in the even France, developed countries, the biggest bank is Credit Agricole, owned by farmers. Rabobank in Netherlands, the co-ops in Canada. You have professionals really running them. In our case here, wala talaga, like in transport sector where I'm now involved now. Karamihan dyan grade school, high school. So you cannot expect much. So kailangan natin create on a mass scale but institutionalized way of pushing it through policy. That's where Ben can come in because respected, my track record, no? And maybe we can organize along that line and trigger a wide discourse so we can hit media, hit even Senate, whatever, no? So that we can translate. And dami, still have many ideas that have been. The last few years I got involved on ground, on the ground. So doon ko nakikita yung mga kakulangan, and you'll see a lot of policy gaps and barriers that need to be addressed. So that's where I think people like us in the NGO world, the civil society, need to look at it from a different lens, no. So that's where we can probably, just say some food for thought na for further discourse, and the discourse can translate into something more solid plans and programs, policy recommendations, and possible action plans, whatever. And that's how we can move at least inch by inch. Kahit wala tayong mga pera-pera ba, kayang i-consolidate.
Thank you for that, Mike. No, Mike is part ng Vision sa Dead Economy. Meron kaming dyan chat group. Tama ka, Mike, no, na kailangan talaga merong policy. And in fact, dalawang policy ang very relevant. Isa doon sa present bill, talagang 2014 pa yan, halos 10 years na yan, no? Diyan pa rin, pinag-uusapan pa rin. And then the other one is the MACWI. Itong MACWI bill, no? Magna Carta for Women in the Formal Economy sector. It is addressing yung mga itong actors in the informal sector, which comprise informal sector comprise 60-70%. Sabi sa akin na Dr. Rene Ofreneo, baka 80% or more yan, no? Informal economy natin kasi lalo na pagkatapos ng COVID pandemic, marami na walang trabaho. So saan sila napunta? According to Dr. Shilabito, at least 2 million workers ay nawalan ng trabaho from the formal sector, pumunta sa informal economy. Yan. So yung MACWI bill, ang tagal na rin yan, hindi pa rin na-actionan, no? Yan. So ngayon, if any of these 2 bills will be acted upon, malaking advance na yan para sa atin. Kaya yung itong hearing ngayon sa Senate on present bill ay actually naghahanap sila ng maimbita, no? Sabi ko, hindi ako makapunta kasi I'm itong indisposed at the moment. I could not attend yung mga ganyang mga meetings, no? Pero yun, ito mga, if any one of you would like to, to participate, no? I can recommend your name doon sa Senate na yan. Kasi siguradong yan, itong kailangan talaga kausapin yung mga senators and then congressmen, no? To approve yung bill na ito. Yan. Malaking bagay yan, no? Kasi pagka meron ng social enterprise department, ang DTI, ay meron ka ng dyan, ito kumbaga beachhead, where you can develop programs supported by the government and talk to the local government. Yan. So ngayon, how about tong initiative by the people themselves, Isa sa mga itong i-initiate ko ngayon ay I've been talking to some of my friends sa microfinance sector, Tama yung sinabi mo, Mike, na yung mga organizations, apex organizations, providing resources to poor people, they're the ones that become bigger. At saka yung wealth na accumulate sa kanila, Cooperative man yan, o kaya NGO man yan, microfinance, over the years, they're the ones that accumulate wealth. Yung mga poor,
Possibly,
siguro ilan lang dyan.
possibly institutionalize a big brother, small brother program, no? Whether corporate or the big co-ops with the small guy. I mean, merong aalalay na may experience, professionals to help out the little guys. And actually, they can benefit from them also. It can be done. So along that line.
Yeah.
Pa-
That's why
natin how we
I
can
talk to my friends.
how we can work out things para we can push ideas like this into something. Magkakaroon ba ng yung ideas in our mind, magkakaroon ng paa na lalakad ka, so at nakakamay, like, so to speak, no?
Yeah. So yun ang, that's what I was saying. I'm talking to my friends sa tong microfinance sector kasi sabi ko, ang yumayaman diyan yung mga microfinance NGO. Yung mga siguro mga nakaalpas sa poverty dyan, less than 10%. Yung 90% dyan pa rin sila, Ngayon, I was talking to them about the initiative I did in India, tapos sa Indonesia, na yung mga poor, they use their own money, They pull their own money, and after a while, they set up their own finance companies, So, fast forward to the present, after 25, 30, 40 years, meron na silang finance company of their own. Hindi ito run by ito mga NGOs, Run by themselves, by the people themselves. So what has happened? For example, sa India, they have moved agriculture to establish food security in India. Tapos yung mga farmers, they have applied yung mga digital platforms to organize their own market. They call it farmers producer organizations na by itong online platform, So they cut short yung intervention ng mga middlemen. So the middlemen, instead of buying directly from the farmers, they have to go to the online platform ng mga farmers kasi mga farmers, i-click lang nila yung kanilang cellphone. Ito yung aking produce ngayon. Meron akong cold storage dito. It has really revolutionized yung itong rural sector ng India. So,
can I share something behind? I may run out of, I'm using cell phone. I may go low, but just share a little thing because the pandemic was mentioned earlier. I'll just give you a microcosm of how the dole-out thing has been done. The ayuda, The ayuda is, for instance, of 200,000 pesos. That's only 200 bills at 1,000 peso each. Kasya yung 200,000 pesos na ibulsa ng isang kapitan. Pero kung binili niya ng bigas at 2,000 peso per sack, 100 sakong bigas yan. Puno na yung opisina niya, ang kwarto niya. So what I'm saying is, the pandemic, the protocols could have been done to the letter, and yet the economy could have continued to grind efficiently. You can have thousands of trucks delivering goods, tuloy-tuloy ang agriculture, tuloy-tuloy ang pabrika. I mean, and those displays can be mobilized into packing, repacking. Kunya, yung isang sako, no? Isang sako, i-chop-chop po yung 2 kilo, 5 kilo, something like that. Tapos the transport sector na na-displace, mobilize them into distribution network. So twice a week, you deliver goods mostly in kind than in cash. Kasi kung in cash, malaking percentage along the line from the top to the bottom, may kupit yan. So yun yung in short, there can be innovative ways of pushing social enterprises. And if they had done that, you could possibly even create an alternative marketing channel system to the traditional cartel, which have been dominating the groceries, the public markets, wet market. So, mga ganito, I mean, kailangan ng a little rethinking, re-engineering of ways of doing things, etc. So, anyway, just some food for thought.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael.
Translate your Ben into some policy na para you get to the level of na, 'di ba? Ma-discuss na yung para hindi tayo Anyway, thank you for
Like I said, Mike, may dalawang policy na itong sinalang dyan, no? Isa ay almost 10 years old na, yung Macquarie is older, yan. It's still languishing, So, kumbaga, imagine if you propose a new policy, ilang taon bago ma-aksyonan yan, no? So, yun ang isang dyan, kasi it's not easy, no, to propose a policy. May mga kaibigan din, yung office mate nasa
mag-pilot test tayo.
So kumbaga,
modeling.
Sa akin, meron ng itong potential policy na makakatulong yung present bill nga at saka yung Macquarie bill, no? Sana kung yan ay ma-approve ng Congress sa Senate, ay maganda talaga yung kalalabasan niya, no? Dahilan sa may provisions na dyan for government support, no, for informal sector at saka yung social enterprises, yan. Ngayon, in terms of mga initiatives, yun nga sinasabi ko, I'm talking to the mga microfinance sector. Sabi ko, baka pwedeng hindi tukuyin yan, no? Na nila. Of course, meron lang may nakinig sa akin. So sabi nila, sige, sa isang national convention, magsalita ka doon, ilatag mo yung na yan, no? Kasi kako, hindi na empower yung mga tao dyan, no? So, actually, isang nga pala, no? I'll be discussing this initiative with one of the PhD students dito si Carl Camiling sa kanilang itong constituency sa March 22, no? So, if you are interested sa initiative na ito, kasi si Carl, meron siyang basic ecclesiastical committees sa Parañaque, Novaliches, Quezon City, Caloocan, no? Ang laking coverage, no? So itetest natin yan sa kanila. I'll be talking with sa mga constituencies ni Carl. At meron akong isi-share sa kanila paano ba itong maritoke yung concept ng microfinance, to the advantage of the people themselves in the microfinance organizations. Ganyan. So, pagka yan, it is adopted. I've also pilot tested that dito sa barangay namin. At naka-third week na ako, excited yung mga tao. No? Pati yung nag-company ng aking aircon kanina, sinabihan ko, excited siya. Gusto niyang gawin yun. No? In other words, pwede naman na merong initiative at the private level. At the government level, I'm trying to say, meron lang mga policies that are being promoted there. At kailangan na lang talaga yan ay constant itong lobby sa parliament, sa Congress at saka sa Senate. Yan. Kasi na yan, itong medyo luto na yan in terms of yung provisions, dahilan sa nakapasa na yan Ilang ano na yan, ilang reading na yan, ilang ano na yan, itong versions, ano? Yan. And it garnered support already from some senators and congressmen. Kaya hopefully, maano na yan, itong ma-implementa na yan. Pag na-implementa naman yan, the next problem is, paano i-implementa yan? No? In such a way na yung resources for that program is really intended for the beneficiaries. Yan. So, maraming itong challenges yan. But of course, we can take our own private initiative, itong small way, and pagka nakita naman ng mga tao na it works, no? Magaling mangopya ang Pilipino, no? So, kailangan lang dyan ay magandang itong initiative, and then makukopyahan na yan ng mga Pilipino.
Modeling.
And of course, no? Itong isang objective ng course na ito is to increase the awareness, no, ng social solidarity economy as an alternative approach to economic development. No? Kasi yung old way hindi na pwede. I mean, it doesn't work anymore. No? Talagang lalong lumalala yung unemployment, lalong lumalala yung poverty, no? Lumalaki yung informal sector. So, there has to be a new way of doing things. Yan. Kaya ito is a small way of addressing this problem, and hopefully, kapag marami na nakakaintindi, there will be more people who can teach this in schools. So, yun ang tong hope natin dito from the academic standpoint. At Carl, ano bang feedback doon sa sa ating meeting sa March 22?
Sir, magandang gabi po sa lahat. Sir, kung marami po interesadong sumama kasi noong yung pinost ko po sa GC namin with the priest director ng BEC sa diocese, gusto po niyang i-post sa buong FB page namin at interested po siyang i-promote. So baka po maraming dadalo po.
Good, very good. So yung mga itong sa ating klase, pwede mo i-share yung Carl,
Opo.
if you don't mind, no? Kasi magandang case ito. Tingnan natin ang feedback ng mga tao. Kasi kung magandang feedback ng mga tao, ibig sabihin, meron siyang pag-asa, no? Pero ang aking initial feedback dito sa aming barangay sa Batasan Hills, madaming dito. Nakakagusto, So ang challenge ngayon ay sino magtuturo niyan, Kaya gusto ko yung mga natin ay sumama diyan para sagad makita nila, no? Paano mamobilize ang mga tao to undertake development from the bootstrap, kasi yan talaga pagka nag-mobilize ang mga tao on their own, ang gandang initiative yan, no? And then the local government, like nangyari doon sa Gamo-Gamo, Nueva Vizcaya, no? Isang cooperative, nag-shift siya from chemical farming to organic farming, no? So umpisa, mabagal. Tapos na i-reorganize ng NGO na ito cooperative. The first positive step they did was to open the membership sa mga kababaihan. Dumagsa ang mga kababaihan, no? Na overwhelmed yung organization to the point na 60%, almost 60% ng members were women, female, and then lahat ng kanilang mga officers or women, no, sa decision-making body, ginawa nila, dinivide nila mga members na almost 6,000 into action groups, no? 25 per group. Yan. Lahat ng decisions nila equals to 25. And then, strategy nila ay makakahiram ka sa cooperative natin 1% per month lang kapag ka mag-shift ka to organic farming. At saka makakabili ka ng aming organic fertilizer, mura lang. Pero kung hihiram ka at chemical fertilizer ang gagamitin mo, 2% per month. Ganyan lang ang strategy nila. No? Siyempre, mga tao gusto yung 1%. Di nag-shift sila sa organic. No? buong municipality ng Gamo-Gamo naging organic, na-recognize sila ng gobyerno. Yung cooperative ngayon, ang ginawa na ngayong champion ng organic farming dyan sa Nueva Vizcaya. So, yan? Isa yan sa mga kliyente ng Foundation for Sustainable Society Incorporated, FSSI. No? Kasi mag-undertake ako ng case study niyan, humingi ako ng recommendation. Isa yan sa mga na-recommended, kaya I undertook the case study. Ang ganda ng case study na yan. So, pwede talaga, no? Pwede talaga. Marami tayong case na ganyan. Any further question or comments? So, yung itong March 22, sabi ko kay Carl kasi, I'll be interested no to test itong concept na ito because he is manning itong mga groups of organized groups of mga statistical communities. Yan, kilala ko yan kasi yung dati kong kaibigan si John Simon, dating mayor ng Quezon City. Yan din ang kanyang ministry, no. So doon sa kanyang lugar, very siya, active siya sa mga involved siya sa kanyang mga activities. Kaya alam ko yung niyan, itong importansya niya sa local communities, Kasi it can combat yung mga addiction, no? Social problems of drug addiction, crimes, ganyan, yung mga communities na ganyan. So, yun, invited kayo, yung mga nandito, if you are itong available on Thursday, hapon yun, no? 2 to 4 ba yun, Carl? Is that 2 to 4?
Sir, Wednesday po. Kasi
Wednesday.
yung Thursday ay November 23. March 23 po.
March 23, okay.
No, March 22 po tayo. It's Wednesday.
Wednesday, okay. Sige, March 23. 22, sorry.
22 po. Actually, sir, pinost ko po sa chat kasi naka-direct kay Lou yung chat pala natin. Hindi pwedeng mag-public. So, nandun po yung poster.
Sige. Para itong matest natin yan, no? And then, tingnan natin yung reaction dyan. Kasi pag naintindihan nila yan, ang dami mong itong resource person, no? At the grassroots level. Pag natapos yan. So, yun ang gusto natin mangyari na ma-equip natin yung mga tao dyan para sila mismo mag-spread ng dyan, ng itong technology na yan. Okay, so wala na kayo ibang itong question? O si Dr. Justin, itong gusto niyang ng yung post nung ating March 22, Carl, no? So ipopost ko rin dito sa itong sa SSA Academy chat group yung na yan, Carl, kung sino gustong umattend kasi nga napaka simpleng idea, no? The idea is, sabi ko nga doon sa microfinance sabi ko, instead of them borrowing from the microfinance organization, we transform the whole thing, We set up their own bank, yung mga clients. Then the microfinance institution shifts from lending to liquidity management. Imamanage lang niya liquidity ng mga households kaysa magpapahiram siya. So what will happen is that yung wealth ng mga tao, instead na mapupunta doon sa microfinance organization, mapupunta sa tao. I-democratize mo yung wealth management saka wealth distribution, ganyan. So yun ang itong simpleng itong solution. And siguro mga dalawang microfinance NGO ang kinakausap, they are interested, no? Malalaki yung mga microfinance na yon. Kasi sabi nila, kukunti yung nag-graduate, no? From poverty doon sa kanang microfinance. So, sabi ko, bakit kanyan samantalang aking tinuruan sa India may kanya-kanyang finance company na. No? Bakit yung mga kliyente natin dito microfinance poor pa rin? No? Ilang taon na yan. So, nung inimpisahan ko yung programa na yan sa India, mga NGO, microfinance, microcredit sa Pilipinas, umaarya na rin. So, makapareho, no? Doon, ang kanilang coverage 300 million plus. Kumpara sa ilan dito, 5 million. Kaya nasabihin mong 10 million, ano? Kakapurit yan kumpara doon sa coverage sa India. And growing. So yun ang innovation that I'd like to share. And once it is captured by the people themselves, ang social force niyan nandoon na sa baba, no? Sila na mismo ang mag-spread niyan. Kaya yan ang diyan kasi napakasimple ng technology. Just empowering them to handle their own mechanism. Okay, so it's already 8:25. Kung wala na po tayong itong question, we can close this. O na-post na para ni Carl, no? Yung pwede mo ipadala yan sa akin, Carl, by email.
Na-email ko na po, sir.
Okay, good. Yan ang aking itong i-post. Okay. So, maraming salamat sa inyo. We'll see again on the 27 pala, si Dr. Rosalinda Efroneo yung ating resource person. We'll talk about global movement ng solidarity economy like fair trade, community supported agriculture, yun. So abangan natin yun, napakagandang itong topic. Okay. Thank you and good night to all. Thank you din kay Dr. Justin again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, classmates.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Justin.
Salamat.
Bye.